Kitco News special coverage of the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference is brought to you by Snowline Gold.
Hey everyone, I'm Jeremy Szafron. Welcome to Kitco News, live on location here at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference in beautiful British Columbia, where we're joined by our first guest, one that is no stranger to the Kitco audience, no stranger to me too, Robert Kiyosaki, of course, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and just an overall character. Thanks for coming on, man.
I love this place. I love what you guys are doing.
I appreciate this, Robert. I mean, you and I were talking a little bit off camera before. You're no stranger to this conference. Give our audience a little bit of a background as why you choose to do deals in Vancouver the way that you have over the years.
That's a tough question to answer, but all of these vendors out here, they're those startup entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And over 30 years ago, I was one of those little startup miner guys standing there begging for dollars. And so I come here and I look at them, and I've struck gold, I've struck silver. I own the mines now, I'm taking them public.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel for these guys. You know, they're just like the startup capital for miners.
Totally, yeah. And I mean, it's being more and more difficult to get access to that capital, it seems. I'm curious, when you walk around a show like this and you're looking at these juniors, you're looking at these startup entrepreneurs, what are you looking for in terms of due diligence? When you find something to invest in, give breakdown as to what you're looking for and how you think that's going to be a winner.
Well, I always look for the miner, not the mine.
Yes.
You know? And I remember I was standing out there like this, probably about your age, you know, pitching these deals, and they used to say, a liar is a miner standing next to a hole in the ground. You know? And I'm there trying to promise you that hole in the ground has gold or silver or platinum in it and all this.
For sure.
But it's a tough thing, but it's character.
Yeah.
And we run into a lot of characters out here in Vancouver,
Absolutely.
good and bad.
Yeah.
So I feel for these guys. I was one of them not too long ago.
Totally. And when you're looking at, say, investing in a mining operation, is it mostly the team? After all these years, you figured it out. It's mostly the team, huh?
It's the team, yeah, exactly. Money follows management. So once you get, I failed twice.
Right.
I started a mine in Dalian, China.
Okay.
And it was successful. We took it public on the Toronto Stock Exchange, and the Chinese nationalized it. So today, China says, we have the biggest gold mine in the world. I said, yeah, it used to be mine. Yeah. So I don't eat Chinese food anymore.
That's it. That's it for you. You've changed. So over the years, I mean, we were talking about in 1997, your Rich Dad, Poor Dad came out. It's been a moment. It's still number one
in the world.
In the world. And in how many languages? I mean, you're in hundreds of languages. It's wild. When you look at when you wrote that to now, how has that advice changed, or is it fundamentally the same?
Yeah, it's basically fundamental investing.
Yeah.
You know, income, expense, asset, liability, statements of cash flow.
Right.
Things they don't teach you at school.
Yeah.
You know, school that teach you, should you be a boy or should you be a girl? I mean, what the hell's our school teaching kids these days?
Totally. Not about this conference, that's for certain, are they?
No.
Okay, so when you're looking at these types of issuers out there and you're starting to think about the future, I mean, you've heard a lot of people on the stage today, 2024, year of commodities. Do you think that's the case as well?
Yes, definitely. Especially silver. You know, this is a 64 silver coin. And 64, they pulled silver out of coinage. Mm-hmm. And in 71, they pulled gold out of dollars. So it's all fake money right now. So the whole economy is running on debt.
Right.
And America is now the biggest debtor nation in the world. The number one asset for America today is student loan debt. Obama did that one. He's indebted the youth of our nation just to pay our military fees.
Right. Right. Okay, well then let's get a little bit more into this. I mean, we were talking about baby boomers and people carrying debt. In terms of, you know, personal finances, are you worried about 2024 for the United States population? I mean, around the world we have debt crises going on. Where are we right now?
What we're talking about before this thing was in 74, I was getting out of the Marine Corps. I flew for the U.S. Marine Corps in Vietnam, 2 tours. And when I came back in 74, Congress passed an act, the U.S. Congress, ERISA, Employee Retirement Income Security Act. It led to the 401k, the IRA, and RRSP here in Canada. The boomers, there's 75 million American boomers, were the first generation without retirement plans. Right. And so I'm saying to people, you can look at the war in Ukraine, you can look at China, you can look at the debt, but we have 75 million American baby boomers who are about to go broke because 90% of them are in the stock market. the S&P 500. They watch what the Fed does. I don't give a shit what the Fed does. They're watching this. When that stock S&P crashes, you're going to have homeless boomers everywhere. So that's why I say to people, it's these little things at 74 just changed that from you have a pension, you don't have a pension. And my generation is the first generation without a pension. And I wrote a book called Who Stole My Pension? And that's how Wall Street gets rich.
Right.
And I don't like Wall Street either.
Yeah, I hear you.
I like the hard stuff.
The hard stuff. So then, is that the advice going to the boomers now? Where do you put your money? What is the plans? How do you advise them?
I'm a broken record. Gold, silver, Bitcoin, no ETFs.
No ETFs.
Anything somebody can print, I don't want to touch it.
Right.
I don't like dollars. I don't like bonds. I like the hard asset.
Okay, let's switch over to the hard asset. I mean, recently on Twitter, you were talking about the fact that obviously you are a Bitcoin advocate. You've had some Bitcoin out there. And just recently, the ETFs were launched, the spot Bitcoin ETFs. I'm curious, with the inflow and looking at how the maturity of that market's going, where are we at with crypto? Less volatile, more mature money coming in?
No, I'm going to make a fortune up. I only have 66 Bitcoin.
Correct.
It's not many, you know. But when they opened up the market to the ETF, now tons of retirement money goes into it. Again, it's retirement money. It's going to pour in, which will jump crypto. And they're estimating Bitcoin at 500, 1,000, all that stuff. I don't pay attention to it.
Okay.
I just say to people, how many actual coins do you have? So I have 66. Big deal.
Right.
But it's plenty.
Totally.
Yeah.
And the volatility doesn't worry you at all, especially when these inflows are coming in.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
Has that changed it?
It's supply and demand.
Right.
So supply stays 21 million. Demand just went up.
So what about for people at home that say want a little bit of exposure into the Bitcoin community, and that's why they're looking at a Bitcoin ETF? Your advice, maybe don't look there.
I mean, no, it's up to you.
Yeah.
I just don't like paper.
Yeah. No, it makes sense.
I'm a hard ass. Listen, I was one of these guys standing out here pitching us a shonky gold deal that the Chinese took from me.
Yeah.
I'm not the best financial advisor you ever had.
Let's talk a little bit about when you do advise companies. What are the themes that companies are looking for right now in terms of gold and silver miners, those that are actually successful going out and grabbing the resources? What are they going to be looking for in 2024 in terms of some massive events that should take place?
Well, I like to make sure the mine's just about ready to go public.
Right.
It's like I took one mine public on Toronto, one on VSC, one in Vancouver, then migrated to Toronto. But my last mine went public on New York Stock Exchange. So I may downplay paper, but it's my paper, and I'm very happy with it. So when you're talking to these miners, I want to find out what their exit is. How fast are you going to go public? And if I don't think they have a team that can take it public, I'm out.
Yeah. So that liquidity, you're trying to find that liquidity in
Correct.
the private placements.
That event.
And is it usually you find, I mean, we're at 2024 now, it's a very interesting year. We have retail investors not really purchasing stocks right now. I mean, there's a capital liquidity crisis happening in the sector. Talk to me about why a year like this would be so important, because it could really change commodities.
Because the smart money's in commodities now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have, just look at mining. Or every rocket, these tomahawks are flying into the Ukraine. I think there's 14 pounds of silver or some ungodly amount. So silver is being blown to shreds. And silver is everywhere. It's solar, it's sterilization of water and all that. And silver is still 60% off its all-time high. And I own silver mines. I am very, very happy with silver. I hope the price stays down longer so I can accumulate more.
Interesting.
I have one more strategy, is I own a lot of silver eagles, U.S. silver eagles.
Yes, yeah.
And there's rumor, I don't think it'll happen, but if the dollar goes bad, they'll always buy, I use silver eagles as money.
Okay.
So I have silver as my fallback number, if you know what I mean.
Interesting. So what do you think about the digitization of currencies then? I mean, there's so much talk right now. We got BRICS happening. We got a U.S. debt crisis. Economically, where are we as a society?
That's how I started this whole thing off. The biggest problem in America and the world today is the American boomer is about to go bust.
Right.
When the American boomer goes to bust, it's like China coming down. Because right now the boomer's been feeding into the stock market. Most of them only have S&P 500 paper. And when that S&P crashes, American boomers will go with it, and that'll bring the whole market down. So not too many people are watching what happened in 1974
Right.
when financial planners stepped in and they started selling boomers paper. You know, they call it the 60-40. 60% stocks, 40% bonds. What a stupid formula that is. It worked up to now. It's not going to work in the future. And that's why I'm warning to boomers right now. For a young guy like you, when the old guys go down, you're going to pay for it.
Right, right. And how does a guy like me go in and take off that paper, as you say? We're paying high prices for it right now. Everything's changed. So is there going to be some type of a equalization happen?
I don't know. You know, boomers control a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're the luckiest generation in history, my generation.
Right.
And they're going to start exiting. So you guys, your generation, has got to be more careful. You know, your mommy and daddy will move in with you.
Yeah. I do love them, so I will say that. Yeah.
But that also affects the real estate market.
Yeah. Let's switch over to real estate market. Obviously, you know, you're a big holder of that. You know enough about it. Your book teaches about real estate as well. I'm curious, when you look to the U.S., where right now what's happening with the debt crisis, and it's just starting to pinch the consumer, where are we at with the housing market in the U.S.?
Well, real estate, residential, is dependent upon jobs. And so just now at the conference, they're talking about how unemployment's about to go through the roof. So when unemployment goes through the roof, jobs go out, real estate goes down.
Right.
And when the boomers start losing their houses, because that's the only asset they got, because the bonds are going bad and the S&P is going bad, we have a major problem. And it's the boomer generation that goes bust.
And is it going to be our generation then expected to kind of go in and buy the dip, per se?
Well, I don't like the Fed, so you can tell that. But that's why gold, silver, Bitcoin, I always stop listening to what Wall Street says.
Yeah.
I don't like financial planners because they're good people, but they're going to sell you stocks, bonds, and paper.
Yeah.
And up to now, the 60-40 works, 60% equities, 40% bonds. But bond market is crashing right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's going through a very volatile moment.
Yes.
But then we had some people on stage say, listen, for 1-2 years, I don't mind making 4% on my portfolio, even in this volatility. Is that the advice? Don't do it?
No, 4%. Oh, great.
I totally hear you.
I mean, I make 10.
10's minimum?
But I'm also a hard money lender.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I'll find a guy like you with a startup or something like this.
Right.
I like funding entrepreneurs.
Right.
And if I can get a higher rate of return for hard money, so I'm making about 10.5% on my money.
Yeah, interesting. And then when you're looking at the energy stocks that are energy companies right now, I mean, geopolitically, we got a mess happening in the Red Sea right now. That could then pinch our supply chain. Is there an opportunity here at these low oil prices to go in and scoop up more on the energy side?
I have lots of oil. Fracking and all that thing. But also, I went to school for oil.
Right.
I drove oil tankers with Standard Oil, and then I flew gunships in Vietnam for the Marine Corps. But energy runs the world. So this guy Biden is one of the biggest criminals of ever. He's a Biden crime family. His first act was to cut the Canadian, the Keystone pipeline from Canada to America. When he cut that, I was selling oil at $30 a barrel when Trump was president.
Right.
The moment Biden came into office and cut the oil went from 30 to 130. Now, I almost voted for Biden over that. So I'm making a fortune. But I knew what that socialist was doing.
Right.
He was making inflation go through the roof to bankrupt the poor and middle class. Biden is a criminal, just like his son. And the second thing he did was open the wall to let all these migrants come across. Biden is not a good man. It's one of the worst presidents we've ever had.
So has that wealth transfer taken place already, or is that what we're in the midst of?
Well, look at what inflation's done.
Right.
If Biden hadn't cut that Canadian pipeline, oil would still be $30 a barrel when Trump was in. That's why Trump stood on stage. He's a good friend. I wrote 2 books with Donald. He says, drill, baby, drill. We can fix the problem. We've got to get rid of these socialist, commie, pinko, Marxist Nazis called the Democrats or the Liberal Party. They're killing our country.
So where are we going? I mean, it's an election year. All polls are looking like Trump's back in. I mean, unless we get somebody on the Republican ticket that maybe does a little bit better. Where are we going? Is Trump back in the White House?
I'd like to see that, but America's a problem shooting the presidents.
It's an interesting place.
I know.
So
you guys have tough gun laws. America doesn't.
But there doesn't there.
Well, we're Second Amendment, freedom of guns,
Yeah.
But Trump's a very, very good man. But I've never seen a man so hated.
Yeah.
He's a good friend of mine. His boys are my friends, We hunt together.
Yeah.
But I've never seen a man that was so vilified than Trump. While this guy Biden, watch what a person does, not what they say.
Right.
Biden's first act was cut the pipeline. Inflation went through the roof. I was making $30, $130 a barrel. He opened the gates for migrants to come in. What Biden is doing is anti-American. It's Marxist.
So, in history, when we look at a presidential election year in the U.S., usually the economy does quite well because obviously the person coming in power wants to make sure that they have a strong economy. That's not necessarily the case right now. Are we going into a recession?
I think we're already there.
Yeah.
The definition is this: if your neighbor loses his job, you're in a recession. You lose your job, you're in a depression.
You're right. That's interesting.
And this last panel was talking about unemployment's about to go through the roof.
Yeah.
So when the unemployment goes through the roof, real estate market crashes, and equities will crash, bonds will crash. So that's why I'm saying the biggest change actually came in 1974 when ERISA was passed, which set up with the first generation without a pension. And there's 75 million American baby boomers without any money. Nobody's watching that.
Nobody's watching that. The wealth transfer that you're talking about is somewhat taking place now. Sticking it back to commodities before I let you go here, looking into this year, we're going into a capital crisis inside of this market particularly, although a lot of people realize that we need to go into the ground and actually get these commodities if we want this new green market and economy to kind of transpire. What is your thoughts on that?
I think commodities are the future. It is, you got to get out of this fake paper. You see, the U.S. dollar is debt. That's what happened in 1971 when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. It became debt. America is the biggest debtor nation in the world. Everybody's in paper, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. I want the hard asset. So I'm very much a hard asset guy. There's no counterparty risk. I don't do business with China anymore because they took my coal mine.
Yeah.
You stole my gold mine. But they play a tough game.
Totally.
But their economy's in serious trouble too.
It's in serious trouble. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere fast. Looking at this country, because obviously you're a VRIC, you do a lot of business in Canada. How has that transpired over the years watching leadership to leadership, particularly in this market?
Well, you guys have almost as bad leadership as we do. I hate to say this guy Trudeau. Where did they got him from Central Casting? He's a good-looking guy.
Some would say he's been in there quite a while.
Yeah, and I remember his parents. I'm their generation, and then we have Gavin Newsom out of California. So they're hiring, good-looking guys like you and all this stuff. But
last thing I want to do is politics. Could you imagine?
But I don't think we have any leaders.
Yeah.
There's a woman named, I forgot her name now, but she said something. She called it the life cycle of a currency life cycle. Like, for instance, Americans wouldn't take Confederate dollars today.
Right.
Because the Confederate dollar is dead. There was a thing called the Continental, which was the money for the Revolutionary War in America. It's dead. All fiat currencies have a currency life cycle. The dollar is at the end of its life cycle. Lynette Zhang told me that. She's a very smart woman. But she's talking about our dollar is in trouble. That's why there's BRICS and all this other stuff. That's why it's very important that we start, as individuals, it's not what the Fed does. It's not what the Treasury does. It's what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? How much gold, silver, and Bitcoin do you have in your possession, not in the economy?
And it seemed like for so long the government was just putting money out in terms of stimulus as well, fake money, if you will, still writing the debt up. And as we listen to some of the analysts on stage now, they continue to say that they're hoping the Fed doesn't go under that 2%. This 0% interest rate has been ridiculous. What are your thoughts?
I don't follow the Fed.
Good.
It's just how much gold, silver, Bitcoin do you have? How secure is your cash flow coming in? Do you have a pension? Do you have medical? You got to take care of yourself right now.
Yeah.
Too many people pay attention to things they cannot control. I can't control the Fed or the government or the president, but I can control my investment portfolio. That's why what Jay Martin is doing. Jay always says at the start of the show, he says, I'm looking for the best place for my money.
Right.
And everybody should be doing that, but that's why 1974 is a crucial year, because all Americans were suddenly told, you have no pension, okay? My generation. My father had a pension,
right.
I don't.
Right.
And then they said, oh, by the way, we got these stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs. And I went, we're getting screwed. And so it's going to come home to roost next probably 2 to 4 years. S&P goes down, unemployment goes down, depression. We're that close.
Great Depression?
Yeah, we're that close. I think we're in it right now, really starting it.
Well, I wanted to leave the audience with a positive note, but
Gold, silver, no, it's
gold, silver, Bitcoin.
I'm going to get richer.
Yeah, yeah. And is that kind of how it works? I mean, you're looking at the wealth transfer between the middle class to the rich. Is that what's taking place?
It's not even that. It's the assets change hands.
Right.
One of my teachers, he taught me about mining. His name was Frank. He was standing on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange when it crashed, and all of these, they're throwing these stocks away. He picked them up.
Paper.
And became a multimillionaire.
Right.
You see, in times of change, which we're going through right now, is when the new wealth steps up. Mm-hmm. But if you're doing your mommy and daddy's formula, oh, I got a financial planner.
Doesn't work.
I got stocks, bonds, mutual funds, 60-40, da-da-da-da-da. But there's more opportunity going to pop, so that's why I'm here at Kitco, or at the VRIC.
Yeah.
It's because resources, what's real, is going to be the most important question. Somebody's going to, is it real? Is this real gold? Is this real silver? Is this real Bitcoin? And that's what you want to go to in the next few years, because, like I said, when Biden came into office, his first act was to cut the Keystone XL pipeline, which drove inflation through the roof.
Right.
And then he blames it on interest rates.
Right.
He's the guy that did it. So there's actually, I hate to use the word conspiracy, but watch what he does. And then he opens the gates to all his immigrants to come in, and we're paying each immigrant $2,200 a month. Millions of them. Our retirees and Social Security get $1,200, but we'll pay an immigrant coming through the border $2,200. We're bankrupt. America's now the biggest debtor nation in world history. So, I want to stay as far away as, if the Eiffel Tower or the Empire State Building is coming down, I want to go that way.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will get very rich, and that's why I'm here at the VRIC.
Right, 2024, you heard it here on Kitco News. It's a year of commodities. Robert Kiyosaki joining us. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate
Great
your time
job,
today.
yeah.
Thank you, sir. And thanks for tuning in. I'm Jeremy Szafron, and again, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel for more, and don't forget to download our app for all the latest breaking news.
Kitco News special coverage of the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference is brought to you by Snowline Gold.